This all happened over a decade ago. The memory is as vivid as if it occurred yesterday. Most people in our small town think my brother Tyler simply got lost in the woods and died of exposure. The local news covered the story for a while, speculating on various theories. But eventually interest waned, and people moved on with their lives. Police closed the case, concluding that it was a tragic accident. My parents, clinging to the hope that Tyler would come back, finally accepted that he was gone. But they never knew what really happened, and I never told them. You might wonder why I've kept silent all these years. The truth is, I didn't think anyone would believe me. What happened that day in the woods was so bizarre, so beyond the realm of reason, that I'd be labeled crazy or worse. I kept my silence, attending therapy sessions, and nodding in agreement when people offered their condolences or theories. Inside, though, I was screaming. But now, after years of carrying this burden, I need to get it off my chest. Maybe this account will serve as a cautionary tale, or maybe it'll just confirm what some have suspected, that I've lost my mind. Either way, I can't carry this secret any longer. Here is what really happened that fateful day in the woods with my brother Tyler. Tyler and I are in the woods, each holding a paper bag to collect leaves for our school project. The sun is shining through openings in the leafy ceiling above us, casting patches of light onto the ground. Tyler is holding up a maple leaf with a huge smile on his face. "Hey, this one's cool, right?" he asks, enthusiasm evident in his voice. "Yeah, that's a great find," I respond. "Put it in your bag. We still need to find an oak and a birch leaf to round out our collection." For the next half hour, we are immersed in our leaf collecting task. The forest floor is covered with a thick layer of leaves, some old and some newly fallen. The sound of leaves crunching under our boots fills the air as we walk. Our paper bags start to fill up with various types of leaves. During this, I notice that Tyler is particularly focused, his eyes darting around as he searches for the ideal leaves. I admire his attention to detail. He's the kind of person who always wants to get things right. I'm a bit more laid back, but together we make a good team. Despite the focus on our task, I can't shake off the feeling that the woods are different today. The air is heavy, and the usual sounds of wildlife are strangely absent. Birds are not singing, and even the wind seems to be holding its breath. Suddenly Tyler gasps, "Whoa, look at that pond." He's already running toward it before I can even respond. The water in the pond is glimmering, reflecting the sunlight in a way that makes it look almost magical. "Hey, wait up," I shout, picking up my pace to catch up. My boots kick up dirt and small stones as I run, but Tyler's already gone ahead, vanishing from my view. My call's for him. "Tyler?" bounce back at me from the tree trunks and foliage, unanswered. The woods, once filled with natural sounds, are eerily quiet, amplifying my solitude. The wind picks up suddenly, sending a chill through me. Leaves shake in the trees, rustling as if whispering secrets I'm not privy to. My skin tightens and I feel shivers run down my spine. The air itself seems to thicken with tension. I reach the pond where I last saw Tyler heading and start my search, shouting, "Tyler, where are you?" My voice dissipates in the air, swallowed by an uncanny silence that makes me uneasy. I start to check the logical places he could be. My eyes dart from tree to tree, analyzing each one as if expecting him to suddenly appear. I look behind bushes, even pushing some branches aside, but find no trace of him. Then my gaze falls on the pond itself. Could he have fallen in? With a sense of dread, I peer into the water, half expecting to see Tyler's face looking back at me. But the pond is just a dark, undisturbed surface, offering no answers. For a moment, I'm paralyzed, overcome by a rush of thoughts and emotions. I'm not just looking for a lost brother now. I'm in the middle of a situation that spiraled into something far more troubling. My hands are dirty from scrambling around the forest floor. My paper bag of collected leaves is forgotten, and the weight of the situation sinks in. The pond, the trees, and even the air seem to press in around me. In this heavy silence, my worry transforms into a gut-wrenching sense of dread. For a moment, I stand there, torn between two options. One part of me thinks it's smarter to go back, to get help from adults or even authorities. Yet the image of Tyler possibly lying hurt somewhere in the woods holds me back. I imagine him scared or worse, injured. The thought is unbearable. Determined, I decide to keep searching for him, occasionally shouting his name. but my calls are met only with the unsettling silence of the forest. Tyler passes and I can't say how much, but it feels like hours. Just when despair is about to completely overtake me, I spot a figure in the distance. It's Tyler standing next to a cabin that looks like it's been abandoned for years. The wood is weathered and some of the windows are broken. Running over, I shout, "Tyler, what on earth are you doing here? I've been searching everywhere for you." He turns around, a smile stretching across his face. "Sorry, I got sidetracked. Isn't this cabin awesome?" As I stand there looking at Tyler, I should be engulfed in a wave of relief. The tension that has been building up inside me should be dissipating, but it isn't. Instead, a new type of tension takes its place. We begin our walk back through the forest, retracing the steps that led us to this strange, abandoned cabin. The sun is still up, but noticeably lower in the sky, casting longer shadows that stretch out like dark fingers on the forest floor. We're both carrying our paper bags, and as we walk, we pick up a few more leaves to complete our school project. Tyler seems enthusiastic, bending down every now and then to grab a leaf that catches his eye. "Look at this one," he says, holding up a leaf with a peculiar pattern of spots. "Kind of looks like it has freckles, doesn't it?" "Yeah, that's a cool find," I reply. But even as I say it, I notice something slightly odd about the way he's holding the leaf, as if he's never held one before. It's a tiny thing, almost imperceptible, and I tell myself I'm probably imagining it. We continue collecting, and Tyler takes the lead, pointing out the different types of trees as we go along. He identifies an oak, a maple, and even a birch, each Tyler picking a leaf to examine before adding it to his bag. Yet, even as he names the trees correctly, I notice that he pauses for a fraction of a second before each identification, as though he's trying to remember what they are. We walk in silence for a few minutes, the only sound coming from the leaves crunching under our boots. I try to shake off the weird feeling that has settled over me ever since we left the cabin. Maybe I'm still rattled from the scare of losing him, I think. The route we're taking seems familiar, yet strange at the same time, as if we're walking through a place that's an almost perfect replica of the woods we know so well. The odd sensation stays with me, but I can't put my finger on what's causing it. "We have to get back home," I say, my voice tinged with a sense of urgency that I hope he picks up on. "Mom and Dad will be freaking out, not to mention Max, our dog. He's going to think we abandoned him." Tyler nods in agreement, and for a moment I think I might be imagining things. But then, as we begin the trek back through the dense trees and foliage, he casually throws out, "Yeah, I bet Susan and Robert are worried." Susan and Robert. My words come out more as a reflex than a question. My heart doesn't just skip a beat, it feels like it stops altogether for a split second. No one calls our parents by their middle names. It's always been Mom and Dad. "You mean Mom and Dad, right?" I ask, trying to give him an opportunity to correct himself. He laughs, but the sound is awkward, almost forced. "Yeah, of course, Mom and Dad." I'm now hyper-aware of every move he makes, every word he says. The comfort and safety I should be feeling right now are replaced by suspicion and apprehension. The earlier sense of dread that I'd managed to suppress is now back in full force, settling in my stomach like a block of lead. I want to dismiss these feelings as mere paranoia, the result of an overactive imagination fueled by the day's strange events. Deep down, something tells me that this isn't simply a matter of an overactive imagination. Something is genuinely wrong. My instincts scream at me to be alert, yet for the sake of my brother, I shove those warning feelings aside and continue walking. The silence between us is heavy as we continue walking. Each step I take is accompanied by a growing sense of dread that looms larger in my mind. The usual sounds of the forest seem to have muted themselves, as if the trees and animals are also aware that something is wrong. Breaking the quiet, he says, "So how's Bella?" My head jerks toward him as I hear the unfamiliar name. "Who's Bella?" "Our dog's name is Max," I say, my voice edged with disbelief. For a moment he seems off balance, his eyes avoiding direct contact with mine. "Right, Max, I meant Max," he quickly corrects, but his voice lacks conviction. By now, alarm bells are not just ringing in my head, they're blaring. This person walking beside me can't be Tyler. My thoughts race as I consider what to do next. Confronting him directly could escalate the situation into something I'm not prepared for. My hand slips into my pocket and grasps the small pocket knife I always bring on hikes. The metal feels cold against my skin, a chilling contrast to the situation I find myself in. The knife might not be much, but it gives me a sliver of confidence. As we walk, my mind is busy constructing a plan because I know I have to act soon. Whatever this thing is, I can't let it walk out of these woods pretending to be my brother. "How did you find this cabin anyway?" I ask, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts in my mind. "I just stumbled upon it," he answers, lifting his shoulders in a casual shrug. "It's cool though, don't you think?" I nod, all while my mind is frantically searching for a way to confirm the nagging doubts that have been growing since we reunited. Then a light bulb goes off in my head, a question that only my real brother could answer correctly. "Remember the summer we built that treehouse with Dad?" I throw the question out, watching his reaction closely. He smiles and nods. "Yeah, that was fun. The Tyler has come for the real test. What did we find in the old chest in the attic that we used for the trapdoor?" This is a shared memory that only the three of us, Tyler, Dad, and I, would know. If he's my real brother, he'll remember. His face changes subtly, a flicker of hesitation crossing his eyes before he answers. "We found some old books and toys." A chill courses down my spine at his words. He's wrong. We'd found Dad's old baseball card collection in that chest, a treasure we'd sworn to keep a secret between the three of us. This person may look like Tyler, sound like him, and even act somewhat like him, but he's not Tyler. And now I know for sure. I can feel the weight of the pocket knife in my pocket, its presence both reassuring and ominous. What's my next move? The creature beside me isn't just impersonating Tyler, it's a threat. It took my brother away, and I can't allow it to harm anyone else by leaving these woods disguised as him. "We're almost there," he observes, pointing toward the lighter space ahead where the density of the trees starts to lessen, signaling the way back to our home. "Yeah," I answer, my words laced with a melancholy that only I could possibly grasp. We're almost there. Every step we take brings us closer to the edge of the forest, closer to a point of no return. My fingers grip the pocket knife even more firmly, almost as if trying to draw strength from it. Options whirl around in my mind, each one more difficult to consider than the last. Yet the realization is crystal clear. I have to act. This thing beside me is not my brother. I can't let it out of these woods to endanger my family, my friends, or anyone else it might encounter. Though the decision is gut-wrenching, my determination solidifies. I'm committed to doing what has to be done, no matter the emotional cost. With my pocket knife gripped tightly, I'm ready for what comes next. I stare into the eyes of the creature pretending to be Tyler. "Who are you?" My voice is low, firm, and carries an edge of resolve. The knife's blade is now out, pointing directly at it. The imposter hesitates, its eyes shifting briefly as if contemplating its next move. "What are you talking about?" It tries to sound incredulous, but the words come out shaky and unconvincing. Ignoring its weak protest, I press on. "Answer the question." "You're not Tyler. Who or what are you?" My voice gains volume, ringing out through the surrounding woods, leaving no room for deception. Suddenly it lunges at me with a speed I didn't expect. I barely manage to sidestep, feeling its fingers graze the fabric of my shirt as it passes. I swing the pocket knife in a defensive arc, but the creature is fast, too fast, ducking under the blade and tackling me to the ground. And my pocket knife is knocked from my hand, landing a few feet away. Desperation surges through me. I need that knife. The creature's hands close around my neck, squeezing with a strength that defies its human form. My vision starts to blur at the edges and black creeps in. Then, with a surge of adrenaline, I manage to free one arm, balling my fist and smashing it into the creature's face. It howls, grip loosening for just a moment. But that moment is enough. I take advantage of its temporary distraction to wrench myself free. Scrambling to my feet, I lunge for my pocket knife, fingers closing around the handle. The creature is back on its feet too, lunging at me with a snarl. "This Tyler, I'm ready." I sidestep its attack and with a quick upward motion, plunge the knife into its side. It screams, a horrible sound that reverberates through the trees and burns into my memory. As the creature's scream fades into an unsettling silence, its body starts to convulse. Its skin ripples as if being pushed from underneath by countless invisible hands. The colors shift rapidly, like a chameleon under extreme stress. Its face distorts first, the eyes enlarging and becoming an inky black, then sinking into what now appears to be a mass of pulsating gray flesh. The features that made it resemble Tyler melt away, leaving behind a blank, amorphous surface. Its limbs elongate and twist grotesquely, bones cracking and reforming in unnatural configurations. Fingers merge, then split again into long, claw-like appendages. Its body contracts and expands in a sickening rhythm, the clothing it wore as Tyler tearing apart and getting absorbed into its form. Finally, what stands before me is a creature unlike any I've ever seen. Its body is a waving mass of gray flesh, speckled with darker spots that appear to move on their own. Multiple appendages extend from its body, some ending in sharp talon-like structures. The eyes, now multiple, are black orbs that seem to absorb all light, giving nothing back. The creature falls to the ground, and its form loses some of its cohesion as it dies, becoming a slightly less defined heap of gray pulsating matter. It lets out one final low gurgle before becoming still. The forest around me seems to take a collective breath, as if expelling a poison from its midst. My mind races as I stare at the creature's lifeless body. The implications of what just occurred start to take shape in my head. I need to get back, but what then? Police, questions, and maybe even accusations. And all the while, I'll know that the story I have to tell is too incredible, too horrifying to be easily accepted. I glance around the woods. I'll need to leave the creature's body here. Taking it with me would only raise more questions I can't answer. But I can't just leave it for someone else to find either. In a state of near automation, I start to gather leaves and branches, piling them on top of the dead creature. It's not much, but it's the best I can do to conceal it. I notice my hands are still shaking as I work. The weight of my actions and their consequences are settling in, but there's no Tyler to fully process it now. I look towards the path leading back home, mentally rehearsing the story I'll have to tell. A lie is forming in my mind, one involving Tyler getting lost in my failed attempt to find him, avoiding mention of the creature entirely. It's a distasteful, awful act to even consider, but the alternative is a truth no one is prepared to hear. I take a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill my lungs. I put the knife back in my pocket. Its blade is still stained by the creature's remains. I'll clean it later. Right now, there are bigger issues at hand. With one last glance at the pile of leaves and branches that is now a grave, I turn and make my way back to the path. I step onto the path looking neither left nor right, and start the long, lonely walk home. As I walk through the front door, I brace myself for what's to come. Mom and Dad are in the living room, their faces etched with worry. "Where's Tyler?" Mom asks, her voice laced with a panic I know all too well. I take a deep breath. "We got separated. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't find him." Dad's face hardens. "You left him out there?" "No, Dad. I searched for hours." I was calling out his name, but there was no reply. Mom's hand covers her mouth and she starts to cry. Dad grabs his phone and dials 911. "My son is missing. We need help searching the woods." "Yes, I'll hold." As I stand there listening to my dad talk to the police, guilt and regret churn inside me. I know Tyler isn't missing. He's gone, taken by that creature. But I can't say that. Not now. Maybe not ever. Hours later, the woods are crawling with police, search dogs, and volunteers. They're calling Tyler's name, shining flashlights into the thickets and up into the trees, hoping for a sign of him. But I know it's in vain. A police officer approaches me. "We found something odd, an animal body covered with leaves and branches. Did you see any strange wildlife while you were out there?" I hesitate, then shake my head. "No, just the usual birds and squirrels. I know exactly what they've found, but I can't let on." He nods. "Well, it's likely just a deer. The team is removing it now." A deer? Is that what they think that monstrosity is? Relief washes over me. As long as they believe it's just an animal, no suspicion will fall on me for its death. But then, I remember why it had to die in the first place, and my relief turns back into sorrow. Days turn into weeks, and still, there's no sign of Tyler. Flyers with his face are all over town. "Have you seen me?" they read. A question I find myself asking over and over, even though I already know the answer. My parents are a shadow of their former selves. They're still holding on to hope, going on TV to plead for any information about their missing son. I stand behind them during the interviews, my face a mask of anguish that requires no acting. But underneath it all, I'm plagued with a relentless guilt and sorrow that's entirely my own. In the quiet moments when I'm alone in my room, I replay that day in my head. Could I have done something differently? What if I had never gone deeper into the woods? What if I had insisted we both turn back for help? Questions with no answers, a past I can't change, and a truth too horrible to speak. Days turn into weeks. I sit in my room staring at the calendar. The date circles when the search for Tyler is officially called off are in red. It's a heartbreaking day. When Mom and Dad find out, the atmosphere in the house becomes even heavier, if that's possible. We have to accept that he might not come back, Dad says, his voice thick with unshed tears. Mom shakes her head. I can't. I won't. I listen, feeling like an intruder in their grief, knowing that my pain is tinged with a guilt they can't even begin to comprehend. The authorities assume Tyler got lost and died of exposure, a notion my parents bitterly reject. Deep inside, I want to shout that they're right. Tyler didn't just get lost. Something horrific happened to him, something unnatural. But I can't bring myself to say it. They'd think I'm insane, or worse, responsible. I'm going for a drive, I announce suddenly, needing to escape the oppressive sorrow that fills our home. Dad looks at me a bit surprised. Are you okay to drive? I'm fine, I lie. The drive is aimless. The turn's random, but somehow I end up at the entrance of the woods, the same woods. My hands grip the steering wheel tightly as I stare into the dark expanse of trees, half expecting that creature to come sauntering out. But it's just woods now, ordinary woods that have witnessed something far from ordinary. I drive back home, avoiding eye contact with my parents when I walk through the door. I go straight to my room and take out my pocket knife, the same one I used that fateful day. Looking at it now, it's hard to believe how ordinary it appears. Just a knife, yet it's so much more. I wrap it in an old cloth and put it in a box of things I no longer use. Finally, I throw it in the trash. It's Tyler to let go, even if just symbolically. Days keep passing. Friends try to reach out, but I keep to myself. You okay, man? You've been really distant. One of them texts me. Yeah, just going through some stuff. Thanks for checking in, I reply, keeping the conversation as brief as possible. My parents, seeing my withdrawal, try to get me to talk. You should see a therapist, Mom suggests one night at dinner. I shake my head. I'm fine, really. I'm just dealing with it in my own way. What way is that? Dad asks, his eyes searching mine for an answer, for a sign that I'm coping better than they are. I'm writing, I lie again. It helps to get it all out, but the truth is I'm not getting it out. I'm locking it away deep inside where it festers and haunts me in quiet moments. I know I can't keep this up forever. One day the dam might break, and my dark secret will pour out. But for now, it stays buried. Locked away like the most shameful part of my soul, too terrible to bring into the light. Weeks turn into months, and life, in its cruel, indifferent way, moves on. But I'm stuck in that moment, standing next to a creature pretending to be my brother, knife in hand, choices to make. I replay it over and over, each Tyler searching for a different ending, but it always concludes the same way. I'm left carrying an unbearable secret, a weight that grows heavier each day. I look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back at me. I've changed in ways that are more than just physical. Mom and Dad continue to mourn, their hope a dim flicker that refuses to go out. They'll never know the full story, and maybe that's for the best. Years have passed since that haunting day in the woods. I've moved to a different city and started a different life. But the past is never really past, is it? It's like a shadow, always there, lurking just out of sight. I've had relationships, jobs, and moments of happiness, and yet the secret stays with me, a constant reminder of the terrible cost of that day. I've avoided the woods, any woods really. I stick to the city, to concrete and steel, places where the line between the natural and the supernatural seems more defined, less porous. My parents have aged. Their faces show the wear and tear of a life burdened by a tragedy that never received its due closure. I call them, I visit, but there's always a wall now, A wall built from the bricks of a lie too big to ever dismantle. Why are you sharing this now, you might ask? It's a question I've asked myself many Tyleries. The answer is simple but not easy. I can't keep it locked away any longer. It's eating at me, corroding me from the inside out. I've come to realize that a burden shared is a burden lightened, even if just a little. So I'm writing it down, sending it into the void of the internet where maybe, just maybe, it will find those who can carry a piece of this terrible truth with me. Do I think people will believe me? Honestly, it doesn't matter. This story, this confession, it's not for them. It's for me. It's to acknowledge that what happened was real as the screen you're reading this on, as real as the air you're breathing. And if by some small chance someone out there reads this and realizes that they're not alone in carrying a dark and terrible secret, then it's worth it. No, I can never undo what happened. Never bring Tyler back. Never unsee the things I saw. But I can unburden myself of this secret, set it free, and hope that in doing so I find a modicum of the peace that has eluded me all these years. Because some truths, as terrible as they are, need to be set free, if only so they stop poisoning the soul they're trapped in. I navigate the narrow streets, taking in the charm of my good friend Jake's new neighborhood. Low brick walls enclose well-maintained gardens, each overflowing with vibrant flowers and neatly trimmed hedges. Children play on the sidewalks, and their laughter carries through the streets while elderly residents sit on benches, enjoying the pleasant weather. Jake moved here about 6 months ago. He'd talked about finding a peaceful place, away from the hustle and bustle of city life, and it seems he's found just the spot. Although he always sent photos and updates, this is my first visit since he settled in. I remember the day he announced he'd bought a house in this town. We were grabbing a coffee, and out of the blue he showed me a photo of the place. He looked so excited, describing the fresh air, the friendly neighbors, and the sense of community he felt during his initial visits. We've been friends since college, sharing numerous adventures and memories. Despite the changes in our lives, our bond remains strong. Distance, jobs, and life events never managed to pull us apart. And even though it's been half a year since we last met in person, our chats and calls make it feel like just yesterday. Parking my car in front of his house, I can't help but smile. The lawn is immaculate, with a small pathway leading to the front door. I take a deep breath, appreciating the fresh air and the sense of tranquility the neighborhood offers. I step out of the car. The sky above is a clear, vivid blue, providing a vibrant backdrop to the rows of houses lining the street. Jake stands in the doorway with a broad smile lighting up his face. I can't help but grin back, feeling a surge of happiness that seems to resonate with the cheerful atmosphere of the town. Jake pulls me into a warm, friendly embrace. The scent of freshly cooked food wafts from inside the house, teasing my nostrils and making my stomach rumble in anticipation. I step inside, my eyes darting around to take in the details of Jake's home. The living room is spacious and adorned with furniture that looks both modern and comfortable. Large windows allow natural light to flood in. I pause near the entrance, my gaze traveling over the spacious living area. Rich wooden floors gleam under soft lighting, and elegant furniture offers an inviting ambiance. A few framed paintings add a splash of color, breaking the room's neutral tones. This place is pretty nice, I say genuinely, impressed by Jake's sense of style. Jake grins, pride evident in his eyes. Thanks, man. I fell in love with it the moment I walked through the door. The peace and tranquility here. It's such a welcome relief after all those years in the noisy city, he replies. Walking over to the kitchen counter, he grabs a couple of glasses, fills one with a chilled beverage, and hands it to me. Settling onto the plush sofa, we get lost in our conversations. The dimmed room, the soft sound of background music, and the familiar company make it easy to travel back in time. We recall our college days, from late-night study sessions to the crazy parties that always seemed like a good idea at the time. As the final traces of sunset fade, painting the sky with deep shades of indigo and black, Jake and I realize it's been hours since we started our trip down memory lane. We both stretch, muscles stiff from lounging on the couch for so long. I've got the guest room ready for you, Jake says, leading the way down a softly lit hallway. The room is cozy. The bed is made up with fresh sheets and a thick, inviting duvet. On the bedside table, a small lamp casts a warm golden glow, Thanks for everything today, Jake. It's been great catching up. He smiles, nodding in agreement. It's always good to see you, man. Sleep well, he says, reaching over to switch off the lamp. The room is plunged into a comfortable darkness. Just as the edges of sleep begin to pull me under, an unsettling feeling snaps me back to full alertness. My heart thumps loudly in the silence. The earlier ambient sounds, the melody of crickets, the distant laughter of neighbors, even the soft periodic calls of nocturnal birds, have vanished. I glance over at the bedside clock. The red numbers glow back at me. It's midnight. The cold sensation that grips me is unlike anything I've felt before. It's not merely a reaction to the silence, but an instinctive feeling of something being deeply wrong. I can't remain still. Pushing off the blankets, I hurry out of the guest room. Reaching Jake's door, I tap on it urgently, trying to keep my voice hushed. Jake. The weight of the silence amplifies my call, making it sound louder than intended. The door creaks open slowly, revealing Jake. His hair is messy from sleep. He squints against the dim hallway light, his expression moving from confusion to mild annoyance. Dude, why are you waking me up in the middle of the night? My eyes dart around, attempting to find the right words. Can't you hear it? I ask, my voice straining with urgency. He frowns. Hear what? Pulling the door wider, he stands there wrapped in his comforter, looking genuinely perplexed. A complete and utter silence, Jake. Not even a wind rustle or an insect chirp. It's freaking me out. My voice shakes, and my concern is evident in the rapid rise and fall of my chest. Jake takes a deep breath, his expression softening. Mark, I know it's strange, but that's just how things are here. At midnight, everything stops, unique to this town. He attempts a reassuring smile. I'm not easily pacified. My eyes probe his, looking for any trace of jest, any sign that he's pulling my leg, but there's none. But why? It doesn't make any sense. Jake leans against his doorframe, rubbing his temples. Trust me, I thought the same when I first moved here. But over time, you get used to it. Everyone here does. It's just one of those local quirks, I guess. His casual response does little to soothe my racing mind. But seeing his calm demeanor, I reluctantly nod, still battling with the myriad questions swirling in my head. The unsettling stillness envelops me as I walk back to the guest room. Every creak of the floorboards feels like thunder in the unnatural quiet. Despite Jake's reassurance, an undercurrent of anxiety runs in my veins. I lay back down, and my mind refuses to settle as it grapples with the sheer oddity of this town's midnight phenomenon. I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong, and my mind is unwilling to let it go, conjuring strange and unlikely explanations. Tossing and turning, I try different positions, hoping to find comfort and perhaps slip into the realm of sleep. The sheets feel cooler, the darkness seems deeper, and time stretches. I feel caught in a loop of thoughts, unable to break free from confusion and fear. Then suddenly, a faint rustle of leaves breaks the silence. The soothing crickets chirp again, and the distant sound of flowing water graces my ears. The natural sounds of the night, which I hadn't realized I had taken for granted, now flood the space. Glancing at the clock to find the glowing digits showing 1 a.m., I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, and a wave of relief washes over me. I lay back down. My heartbeat slows, and my earlier fears start to recede, albeit reluctantly. I close my eyes, focusing on the melodic rhythm of the outside world, allowing it to lull me into a fitful sleep. The morning sun filters through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the room. The events of last night replay in my mind, making the morning's tranquility seem almost deceptive. I hear the soft hum of activity downstairs, the clinking of dishes indicating that Jake is likely preparing breakfast. Pushing the blankets aside, I pull on a t-shirt and make my way downstairs. Did you sleep well? Sort of, I respond as we sit down to a hearty breakfast. As the day progresses, Jake and I decide to explore the town. We stroll through the local park, taking in the serene beauty of the greenery and the children playing. We visit a couple of small shops where Jake introduces me to some of the local shopkeepers. Later, we grab a coffee at a cafe. As the day wears on, we take a leisurely walk by the river. The gentle sound of flowing water is accompanied by the chirping of birds. By the time evening approaches, we find ourselves back at Jake's house. Both of us are a little tired but content from the day's activities. As the aroma of dinner cooking fills the air, I can't help but feel a sense of unease for the coming night. The events from the previous night loop in my thoughts, playing over and over like a broken record. Each time I replay the scene, my mind tries to grasp some sort of rational explanation. It comes up empty. The quiet that had blanketed the town was not just the absence of sound. It felt alive and oppressive. Jake's casualness about it all only added another layer of mystery to the situation. Why wasn't he as affected or curious as I was? By the time evening rolls around, my sense of foreboding is undeniable. Every small noise, every shadow feels like a countdown to the next midnight silence. The atmosphere feels charged, like the charged silence before a storm, and I find myself glancing at the windows, half expecting some sign or hint of what's to come. Jake, either oblivious to my anxiety or choosing to ignore it, fills the room with stories of his new life here. He speaks of parks where he jogs every morning and the interesting characters he's met. Some of his stories are truly fascinating, and any other day I'd be engrossed in every word. But today his voice becomes a background as my focus narrows to the ticking of the clock. My eyes are drawn again and again to the ornate wall clock above the fireplace. Its rhythmic ticking seems louder to me with each passing minute, mimicking my rising heartbeat. I give a yawn that I hope is convincing. It's been a long day, I mumble, rubbing my eyes for added effect. Jake simply nods, engrossed in his phone, and I take that as my cue to leave. The room is dimly lit, with only the soft red glow from the digital clock providing any illumination. I sit on the bed, back propped against the headboard, and stare intently at the clock. The red numbers change from 11:53 p.m. to 11:54 p.m., and my anticipation heightens. By the time 11:55 p.m. illuminates the room, I'm already moving, slipping into my shoes and reaching for the jacket draped over the chair. I take a deep breath to calm my racing heart and gingerly open the door, flinching at the faint creak it emits. The hallway is still, the only sound being the distant hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Taking one step at a time, I make my way to the front door. I open the front door, which creaks slightly, sounding exceptionally loud in the quiet night. I wince but then continue, slowly stepping out onto the porch. Under the luminescent glow of the moon, everything is bathed in a silvery hue. I take a deep breath. The cold air filling my lungs feels crisp and somehow amplifies the quietness surrounding me. I navigate the neighborhood with silent steps, and my senses are heightened. Each step I take feels deliberate, as I avoid the patches of light spilling from the street lamps. As I move through the neighborhood, a building pressure in the air is noticeable, as though the very atmosphere is bracing itself. And then the night suddenly goes quiet. There's nothing, just absolute silence. I get a strange, sudden rush of adrenaline and anxiety from the unsettling silence. As my heart pounds, I peer around a corner and am met with a sight that sends chills down my spine. Everywhere I look, people stand outside their homes. They aren't talking or even acknowledging one another. Their faces are devoid of emotion and their eyes are vacant. They're all staring up at the moon with an intensity that is both haunting and mesmerizing. Even the animals are part of this bizarre sight. Cats, dogs, and even a stray bird or two are motionless, with their gazes fixed on the moon. I duck behind a bush, concealing myself as best I can. The trance-like state of these people is deeply unsettling. What is happening? Why are they also entranced by the moon? An hour seems to stretch into an eternity. My muscles cramp from staying hidden, but I dare not move. I need to understand what is happening. After a while at 1 a.m., just as abruptly as it started, the trance breaks. The familiar sounds of the night flood back, and the townspeople blink, looking around as if waking from a deep dream. Then they slowly make their way back into their homes. Heart still racing, I make my way back to Jake's house, slipping inside unnoticed. The weight of what I've witnessed presses heavily on my chest. The town's behavior isn't just a quirky town thing, as Jake had mentioned. It's deeper, more profound, and undeniably eerie. The morning sun streams through the sheer curtains of the guest room, casting a soft golden glow on the walls. The chirping of the birds outside seems almost too cheerful, too normal, especially after the bewildering events of the night. I pull on a shirt and my mind races as I prepare to confront Jake. Heading downstairs, I find Jake in the kitchen, sipping coffee and flipping through a newspaper. "Jake," I begin, my voice firm. "We need to talk about last night." Jake's eyes flick up to meet mine, but he doesn't respond immediately. After a long pause, he finally says, "I told you it was just a town thing." I resist the urge to shout. People standing outside staring at the moon, that's not just a town thing. What is happening here? Jake sets his coffee down, leaning back. His face is a mix of annoyance and genuine concern. "Mark, it's best if you don't get involved. Just stay inside at midnight, okay?" "But why? What's going on? Why is everyone acting like this is normal?" I press. Jake rubs his temples. "It's complicated. This town has its ways. I've learned to accept it. You should too." Before I can retort, a knock on the door interrupts us. Through the window, I see a few locals gathered outside, talking in hushed voices, and occasionally casting sly glances our way. The pit in my stomach grows deeper. I move towards the door, but Jake's hand on my shoulder stops me. "Don't," he warns. Ignoring him, I open the door. "Morning," I greet, trying to keep my voice steady. One of the locals, an older man with graying hair and sharp eyes, steps forward. "Morning. We just wanted to check in, see how you're settling in," he says, though the weight of his gaze tells a different story. "I'm doing well, thanks," I respond, doing my best to appear casual. "Just enjoying my visit?" The man nods, his eyes never leaving mine. "Good. Remember, this town looks after its own. Just be careful. Midnight isn't a good time to be wandering about." The implication is clear and a chill runs down my spine. I nod slowly. "Thanks for the advice. I'll keep that in mind." The group disperses, but the weight of their message lingers. Closing the door, I turn to Jake, exasperation evident in my voice. "What the hell, Jake? They know. They saw me." Jake runs a hand through his hair, looking more frazzled than I've ever seen him. "I tried to warn you, Mark. This town has its secrets, secrets that it protects fiercely. You could have given me a heads up," I snap. Jake sighs. "I didn't think you'd go snooping around. I thought if I downplayed it, you'd let it be. I'm not going to stand by when something this weird is happening," I argue. "I need answers, Jake." He takes a deep breath, searching for words. "I can't give you the answers you want. All I can tell you is to stay inside at midnight and keep your head down. It's for your own safety." Gravity in Jake's voice tells me he isn't exaggerating. I nod slowly, the reality of my situation settling in. The rest of the day carries a subdued tone. Jake and I try to engage in ordinary activities, perhaps in an attempt to bring some normalcy back into the mix. We take a walk through town, the sunlight illuminating the charming buildings and streets, but there's a tangible tension in the air. The townspeople offer cordial nods and forced smiles as we pass, but their eyes hold an unspoken message. They're watching. Lunchtime finds us at a local diner. The smell of freshly cooked meals fills the air. Burgers, fries, and the distinct aroma of apple pie. Chatter around is light, filled with daily anecdotes and town gossip, but our conversation is considerably more reserved. Jake introduces me to the waitress, a middle-aged woman with a kind face named Clara. She offers a friendly smile, though I can't help but notice the brief shared glance between her and Jake. A silent exchange of some kind. After lunch, we wander to a nearby park. Children are playing on swings, their laughter ringing out in the clear afternoon air. A couple of teenagers are engrossed in a game of basketball, the rhythmic bounce of the ball punctuating their energetic shouts. For a moment, the strangeness of the previous night seems miles away. The occasional side glances from the park-goers and whispered conversations remind me of the reality. "I'm thinking of joining the town's book club," Jake says, steering the conversation away from the previous night's topic. "Clara mentioned it during one of my visits to the diner." "That's good," I reply. "It's always nice to find common interests with the community." Despite my words, my mind is elsewhere, and Jake notices. He stops, facing me. "Mark, I know it's hard, but try not to overthink things. Let's just enjoy the day." I nod, trying to heed his advice, but the unease remains. We spend the evening at Jake's, watching movies and reminiscing about our college days. We avoid talking about the town's midnight mystery. The glow from the TV casts flickering shadows in the dimly lit room, creating an almost cozy ambiance. We share a pizza, laughing at inside jokes and recalling shared memories. The tension inside me rises as daylight wanes. The sun dips below the horizon, and the encroaching darkness gradually engulfs the landscape. Through the window I observe Jake's neighborhood. Houses and trees are cast in muted twilight colors. For anyone else, this town appears ordinary. However, after the strange events, I know it's more than that. Tonight I'm determined to uncover it. After we both head to bed, I wait a while to ensure Jake will be asleep. I pull on a black jacket and pants. I check my reflection to ensure my attire won't easily be spotted. I remember the binoculars I packed, thinking they'd be for birdwatching or scenic views. Now they may serve a more urgent purpose. Retrieving them from my backpack, I feel their weight reassuringly in my hand. Telling Jake about my plan is out of the question. He'd protest or worry, and I can't risk compromising his standing with the locals. Quietly, I unlock the front door of Jake's house and step out. The air is cooler now, carrying a hint of dampness. I move stealthily, staying close to the buildings and trees, especially when passing the brightly illuminated windows of neighboring houses. After a few minutes of cautious navigation, I spot the perfect observation spot, a dense hedgerow adjacent to a vacant lot. It provides ample cover, and from here I can clearly see the street and its happenings without drawing attention to myself. As the night edges closer to midnight, the atmosphere grows thick with an unsettling silence. Then, right on cue, doors begin to open. Men, women, children, and even pets step out, their gazes lifting to the moon. From my hideaway I notice something new, their eyes. Instead of the expected reflection of moonlight, they emit their own soft phosphorescent glow, an unnatural luminance that is both mesmerizing and eerie. I hastily bring my binoculars to my eyes, adjusting the focus towards the moon. As the lenses bring the celestial body into sharper clarity, a chilling sight meets my eyes. Obscuring a portion of the moon is an enormous entity, one that seems to change between being solid and vaporous. Its main body is a dark mass, like a storm cloud, but with a fluidity suggesting sentience. From this central mass, countless tendrils extend downwards, reminiscent of fine, smoky threads. They reach out and delicately connect to each person. The ends of these tendrils attach to the glowing eyes, and with every heartbeat they appear to pulse, drawing something from each host. As I watch, breathless and rooted to the spot, I see that with every extraction the figure's form becomes more discernible. Its once indistinct and misty edges begin to solidify. Faint outlines suggest an intricate webbed pattern across it, and where I presume its face would be, there are countless eyes, shimmering with the same glow as the townspeople's, but infinitely more inscrutable. Fear gnaws at me as I grapple with understanding the enormity of what unfolds before me. The figure seems to be siphoning off something vital from them, but whether it's their feelings, experiences, or perhaps their very souls, I cannot fathom. A sudden gasp behind me breaks my concentration. Whirling around, I come face to face with a young girl, no older than 10. She stands a few feet away and her small frame trembles slightly. Panicking, I turn to flee, but a firm grip on my arm stops me. The ominous surroundings come alive with movement. Emerging from the dim outlines of nearby houses, several people now encircle me. Their faces are devoid of any emotion, but their glowing eyes sear into me with an intensity that has me rooted to the spot. The older man, who I recognize from earlier today, steps forward with an authoritative stride. His face is stern. I can feel the weight of judgment in his stare. My throat feels dry and words barely manage to make their way out. Just let me go, I manage to stammer, the desperation palpable in my voice. I won't say a word, I promise. For a tense moment, all that surrounds us is the wind and the piercing glow from their eyes. I can feel the oppressive force of their collective focus, a pressure that has me caught in a vice of fear and confusion. The man seems to conduct a silent conversation with the others, his eyes moving briefly to each face before finally landing back on me. After what feels like an agonizing eternity, he loosens his firm grip on my arm, and his stern face softens ever so slightly. With a voice that carries a stern warning laced with an underlying thread of concern, he breaks the silence. "Don't let us catch you outside at midnight again." Nodding vigorously, unable to form words under the immense pressure, I turn quickly, stumbling my way back to Jake's house. Every fiber in my being urges me to glance back, to catch one last glimpse of them. the fear of retaliation keeps my gaze firmly fixed ahead. As I distance myself from the group, I realize that the town harbors secrets far deeper than I could have imagined. The terrifying sight of the figure and its tendrils connecting with the townspeople remains vivid, refusing to fade away. I can feel the rush of air as I push the door open. My footsteps grow louder than the last in my panicked state. Jake's living room feels alien after what I've just witnessed. On the opposite side of the room, Jake stands by a window. "I told you to stay inside," he says, his voice strained and tight with repressed emotion, his eyes darting everywhere but meeting mine. Regaining my breath, I can't suppress the torrent of anger and confusion. "You knew about that thing, didn't you?" My words, even to my own ears, sound shaky. Jake lets out a deep, resigned sigh as if he's been holding on to a breath for far too long. His usual vibrant demeanor seems diminished. "I did," he confesses, his voice heavy with regret. His fingers grip the back of the chair as he sinks into it, looking like a man burdened by more than just the weight of the world. But explaining it, where would I even begin? And the townspeople? "They all know," I ask, feeling a mix of disbelief and dread. He nods slowly, choosing his words carefully. "It's a pact, a deal made generations ago. The town was on the brink of disaster. Famine and disease were rampant. In desperation, they sought any means of salvation. That's when the entity appeared, offering a deal." Listening to him, I feel my legs weaken, forcing me to sit down beside him. The cushions, usually so comfortable, now feel hard and unwelcoming. "So every night, that thing takes something from you? From everyone?" Jake nods again, his eyes distant as he delves into a past that he, too, perhaps wishes he could forget. A small fragment of our soul. It's not much, and most don't even feel its absence, but it's enough to keep the entity satisfied. And in return, our town remains prosperous, free from the issues that plague the world outside. The atmosphere in the room is heavy with tension. Jake's worried gaze meets mine, his eyes reflecting a mix of guilt and concern. "Why didn't you tell me?" I ask, struggling to keep my voice steady. Jake runs a hand through his hair, exhaling deeply. "I thought it was better for you not to know. Tourists usually stay indoors at night. They never witness it, and they leave the town none the wiser." The room is thick with tension, the silence punctuated only by our uneven breaths. After a long pause, Jake finally breaks the silence. I think we should get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day, and maybe we can figure out where to go from here." I nod, finding it difficult to form words. There's a lump in my throat, a mixture of anger, sadness, and an overwhelming feeling of helplessness. "Okay," I manage to say, my voice barely above a whisper. He leads me to the guest room, pausing at the doorway. "Mark," Jake says, his voice low and hesitant. "I'm sorry, truly." I just nod, unable to trust my voice. Without another word, he turns away, and I hear his footsteps recede. I close the door behind me and lean against it for a moment, gathering my thoughts. As I prepare for bed, the evening's events play on a loop in my mind. Despite the exhaustion and emotional turmoil, sleep seems like a distant prospect. The weight of the day's revelations gradually takes its toll. I crawl into bed, pulling the blankets up to my chin, and despite the chaos in my mind, sleep begins to claim me. The first rays of dawn pierce through the window, casting a golden hue in the room. The brightness forces my eyes open, and the events of the previous night flood back. The quiet of the morning makes the sinister revelations seem like a mere nightmare, but deep down I know they're real. Pulling myself out of bed, I decide to freshen up. A cold splash of water on my face revitalizes me momentarily. The aroma of coffee wafts through the house as I head downstairs. Jake is in the kitchen with his back turned to me. There's a momentary hesitation, but then he turns, meeting my gaze. "Morning," he greets, pouring a cup of coffee for me. "Thanks," I mumble, taking the cup. We sit at the kitchen table and Jake breaks the silence. "I'm thinking of showing you around today. There's more to this town than what happens at night. We've got history, beautiful spots, and genuinely good people." I nod slowly. Sounds like a plan. Maybe a day of normal is what I need. Jake's attempt to divert my attention is transparent, but I appreciate it. Over the next few hours, he gives me a tour of the town. We visit historical landmarks, parks, and the local marketplace. We chat with townspeople who in the light of day seem ordinary and friendly. They greet Jake warmly, though I notice occasional wary glances thrown my way. Lunchtime finds us at a local diner. Over sandwiches and fries, we talk about everything but the looming entity above. The afternoon is spent walking by a calm lakeside. The beauty of the place, juxtaposed with the night's eerie events, makes it all the more surreal. As evening approaches, we head back. Returning to Jake's house, we're greeted by the golden hues of the setting sun. The final night of my visit is here, and a storm of emotions whirls inside me, and anxiety. As night descends, that lurking fear, the dark secret the town holds, seems to tighten its grip. I can't explain it, but there's a pull, a growing urge to step outside, to join the others under the moon's gaze. I can feel it, that compulsion. Every fiber of my being tells me that tonight resisting won't be as simple as staying indoors. I'm feeling something odd. He glances at me, understanding immediately. It's the pull, isn't it? I nod. I don't know if I can resist it tonight. Jake's face is a mask of concern. You need to fight it, Mark. You haven't been exposed as long as we have. It might be more intense for you. I swallow hard, trying to quell the rising panic. What if I can't? Jake thinks for a moment, then springs into action. Let's lock you in a room without windows, just for the hour. It might help. It's not the most comforting of plans, but it's a plan nonetheless. Jake leads me to a small storage room at the back of the house. It's windowless. I step inside and Jake follows, closing the door behind us. It's pitch black, save for a dim light from a battery-powered lantern he's brought along. Keep this with you. You'll need the light, he instructs. I grip the lantern tightly. How will I know when it's over? He pulls out an old alarm clock. I've set this to 1 a.m. When it goes off, you're free to come out. I'll be on the other side of the door. A lump forms in my throat. Thanks. I appreciate it. He pats my shoulder. Hold on, okay? Just one more hour. I nod as he exits, leaving me with my thoughts and the ticking clock. The minutes drag on. I can feel the pull even here, though muted. It's like a whisper at the back of my mind, urging and tempting me to step outside and lift my gaze to the moon. My palms are sweaty. I try to distract myself, thinking of home, of anything but the moon and that thing. Every now and then I check the alarm clock. Time seems to be moving at a snail's pace. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the alarm clock's piercing ring cuts through the darkness. It's 1 a.m. I've made it. Shaky but relieved, I unlock the door and step out. Jake is there as promised. You okay? He asks, his eyes searching mine. I am now, I reply. I need to leave this place. First thing in the morning. He nods understandingly. I make my way to the guest room. Despite the mental exhaustion, sleep seems elusive, as memories of glowing eyes, shadowy figures, and tendrils reaching from the moon dance at the forefront of my mind. The pillow feels cold against my cheek, and every creak of the house is magnified, sounding off like distant warnings of the dangers lurking outside. As my eyelids grow heavy, the sounds of the house begin to lull me into a fitful slumber. The morning light shining through the curtains wakes me. I gather my belongings, and the urgency to leave this place grows with each passing minute. The once quaint town now appears more like a cage, its bars formed by the secrets it harbors. Jake finds me at the door. His face is drawn, and his eyes reflect the shared knowledge of the town's secret. Morning sun is just beginning to paint the horizon with hues of gold and pink as I start the car. I adjust the rearview mirror, glancing one last time at Jake's home as it recedes in the distance. The roads are empty, and as I drive through the town, a montage of the past few days plays in my mind. Every corner, every storefront holds a memory, some intriguing, others terrifying. Yet as the town's borders approach, there's a tangible sense of release, like a heavy weight being lifted off my chest. The town sign passes by in a blur. I exhale a deep, shuddering breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The town might be behind me, but its mysteries remain in my mind. The radio crackles to life, breaking the silence. A cheerful tune fills the car, and I hum along, letting the music wash over me, cleansing my thoughts of the past few days. As miles and hours pass, the town becomes a distant memory. The Sun climbs higher in the sky, its warm rays casting a golden glow on everything. With the town and its eerie secret now far behind, a newfound sense of freedom fills me as I make my way back home, away from the town's horrifying secret.